Josh, it's good to see your face again. How you doing, man?
Hey, brother. You too. I'm doing good. Good to see you back in town.
Yeah. It's good to be back. It's good to be back. I'm back with the old blank wall behind me, instead of
Yeah.
a fancy hotel room. But hey, maybe I'll put something back there at some point.
Yeah, yeah. Matching it right here, man. Matching it right here.
Exactly.
But for everybody to know, we're gonna take this to different places, like we were talking last video, and try to give some, like Matt said, some better scenery and just maybe also getting outside uh these walls, will bring other topics as we're talking. So it could bring other elements in as we're discussing, situations and things like that. So it'll be cool.
Exactly. Yeah. We're gonna mix it up a little bit, change up the scenery a little bit, make it a little bit more interesting. But hey, for this video, we're going to stick with the blank backgrounds and our lovely faces and go from there. Hopefully, we'll have something interesting to talk about so we don't bore too many people. But with that, I think you had something you wanted to bring up. You were telling me about. So what's on your mind, man?
Yeah, so in the I don't know if it was the last video or the prior one before that one, I had mentioned there was I have been going to the doctor, kind of feeling kind of a little out of whack, not knowing, I don't know if I had necessarily said if it was me or if it was, you know, chemical levels, whatever the case may be. But you know, I wanted to get a little bit deeper than that. Because it has been it has weighed a little heavy on me. And I just wanted to explain kind of what was happening to me, what is happening, and kind of how I'm dealing with it in the process and how I'm uh, getting better on it. So I hope this can help, just maybe bring some light to, if you are going through something, maybe how to express it, how to say it. And I know Matt and I talk about, hey, if you have any questions or if you're going through something to hey, put it on there, and post it, and maybe we can talk about it. Um, and you know, I was a little, I guess, maybe not reluctant to talk about this, but I was thinking, I was like, man, should I bring it up? Should I not? And I was like, you know what? No, this is what the video's for. And yes, absolutely I should. And and I just wanted to, you know, again, just show people you can do this. And I I'll be the first one to do it. So I'll get into it, and
There you go.
there ain't nothing to be ashamed about. And and it feels good to get it off your chest, because when other people know, um, you know, they care about you, they truly care about you, they'll be there to help you, and in any way possible. And it is really good, if you're keeping everything inside, to find a confidant to talk with. It really does. That helps, even if you can't figure it all out, you can't figure anything out, talk to somebody. I mean, that does wonders no matter what you're going through. Find somebody to talk to. um, but also in that, before I get started, um, we do, we'll put an email on there, because we were kind of thinking too, hey, if it's something personal, and again, we're not going to put any names or anything. We're not into that. It just kind of give us some topic and we'll just talk about it. But I know some things might, maybe it's personal, or maybe feel uncomfortable posting something like on there. So we'll put an email on there. So if you wanted to, you know, ask something or say something, it all could be in private. But
Yeah, we'll put our email actually on the channel. So when you go to the channel and you look at the description of the channel, or the more information section, I forgot what the tab looks like exactly, but you basically go there and we kind of have a description of what the channel is all about. We'll put our email in there so that you can reach out to us. And again, if you have anything you want us to talk about, we're happy to do that. Or if you just need somebody to talk to, we're happy to do that as well. And it can be difficult to bring things up, especially if they're, like Josh said, more personal. So we kind of want to have a way for people to communicate with us outside of the comment section, because obviously that's public and everybody can see it. So if that is something you're interested in, look out for our email address on the channel.
Absolutely. All right, so I'll get right into it. So all this stuff has kind of been happening to me back in November. Kind of is when I kind of felt it start. And
so this is like almost a year ago.
Yeah, almost a year ago. And so I've been having some type of we'll call them heart palpitations, right? And just random. Maybe when I go to sleep, maybe I'll wake up, kind of have some, maybe 2, 3 in the morning. I'll wake up and be not every night, but like I said, just random. I'm like, and nothing painful. It's abnormal, right? Yeah, I know my heart probably shouldn't be beating that fast when I'm asleep, right? So, I think that's when it started. So I wake up and that's not right. Bam, it goes up to here. What's going on? Right? And when it gets up to here, I can start to overthink, and I think a lot of people do as well. You let it get there, like what's going on? Am I about to have a heart attack? All that stuff. What does that sound like? That anxiety 2.0 right there. So, but I had that symptom, and so let's fast forward into that was like November. Let's get into January. So January hits, and every once in a while, I still have heart palpitations, but then I'm starting to feel like a really brain fog, like even kind of like short-term memory loss. It felt like, and kind of felt tingly. Man, sometimes my neck would get a little tight and stuff like that. Just really weird feelings. And bam, goes right back up to here. Am I about to have a stroke? Like, what's going on? And so I kind of, flipped out a little bit. I did. And I wanted to make sure everything was okay. So I did go to the doctor and get checked out and stuff like that. And they run all the tests and they said, well, you're fine. You just need to drink some more water. You're not drinking enough water and stuff like that. So, I'm like, well, that kind of seems like a cop out because okay,
Yeah.
but all right, I'll drink some more water. So drinking some more water, but the symptoms kind of subsided. Well, I'm going to fast forward all the way up to kind of this past month or so. And, I'll be driving in the truck. And again, like a really bad brain fog and just really feel just disconnected in some way, shape, or form, just really weird up here. And, I feel like stuff's starting to tighten up on me. My hands are getting tingly, maybe numb, and, and then now I know with that, because it's starting to get real mental on me. Like, I'm like, really, like, I'm thinking, man, I must be, am I about to have a stroke? You know what I mean? Like, something must be wrong with me because
Yeah.
there was a lot of symptoms. And So again, I go to the doctor. That's the thing where there was like, oh, vitamins and stuff like that. Well, they said, hey, we want to do this type of like procedure. It's not a surgery or anything. Um, but we need to get you cleared through the cardiologist, you know. And so now I'm like, oh gosh, here we go, you know. I'm in the grips of the hospital and the the medical field. It ain't gonna let me go, you know. And
Right. Pay
so,
up.
but yeah, so I was kind of glad they had said the cardiologist. I was, but I wasn't because I'm like, well, I thinking, in my mind, like maybe something's wrong with my heart or something like that. So I go to the cardiologist this past week, right? It was like Tuesday, I think. Yeah, it was Tuesday. So I get there, and man, when I get in there, I am really trying to calm. I'm trying to be calm, but man, you know, uh, I let my mind get the best of me, and I have been letting my mind get the best of me when these symptoms pop up, and and the reason I say that is because after they do the tests and stuff, I start talking to the cardiologist. He comes in and he's talking to me, and he says, he's talking to me and trying to figure me out. And long story short, he says, "You're fine. Your heart's healthy. You're good." And he says, "This is what I want you to do. If you have some of these symptoms, ignore them because they're not going to do nothing to you. You're not going to drop dead. You're not. So you're fine. I'm telling you right now, you're fine." And
Wow.
yeah, so he says that to me, and so like, I mean, great, that's awesome. So after all that, I get back in my truck and I'm driving home, and I'm starting to have the symptoms again, and I was having some while I was talking to him, but I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
And or maybe I did, but he just kind of glazed over it, and it's like, dude, you're fine. But so I get in my truck, same thing, but there was a difference, and it's those words that he had told me, just just put them out of your mind. Like, they're, just ignore them. So I'm driving and I start to ignore them. And I start to just like, man, you know, it ain't nothing. It ain't nothing. It don't even, like, why even waste any time on it? And as I'm doing it, after a minute or two, everything goes away. Everything. All the stuff I have been going through for weeks, months, possibly, dang near a year, you know, I think 90% of it was all up here.
Hmm.
And and now the doctor said, now I'm not telling you that some of your symptoms ain't real, because I am still getting seen by another specialist, stuff like that. But it's all kind of, again, what I was talking about before, kind of like the vitamins and balancing out. So we're just trying to figure out some stuff. So, and with that, just like I said, we're kind of like cars, if you ain't getting enough of something, maybe it could affect, muscle and stuff like that, right? And if you're not getting
Yeah.
enough vitamins, maybe your brain does get fog, stuff like that. So just kind of balancing out. And so I wanted to bring that up because I thought it was very important that, you know, your mind, you can make yourself sick. And I did that to myself. I let my mind get the best of me over a course of some time. And my mind, it seemed like it been trying to figure me out for the past 5 or 6 years.
Hmm.
It had. everything
Just trying to
yearns
come
to,
back.
yes, everything yearns to exist. And it found its way back to infiltrate, you know, back into my life again, into, to where it could kind of run wild a little bit. And it knew my weakness. It knew my weakness. My weakness was, feeling certain types of symptoms was a weakness for me. And it latched onto it. And it worked. I think I was telling you, off video, that it was like anxiety like 3.0. It was like on steroids. I was like, man, if this is manifested this way, it's crazy. Like, it really been laying low and just trying to figure me out, like when it was gonna be its right time to like pop back into my life,
Right.
and do its number. And I'll be damned if it did. It's been messing with me.
Wow.
And but again, the difference between, you know, anxiety messing with me now to before, even though I did go to the doctor because of these things, I was very much more in control. You know what I mean? Like the stories that we were talking about, like I'm not ever like, maybe sometimes I may have like maybe got pretty intense and I'm thinking about it, but I'm like, man, you need to calm down. And I can calm down.
Yeah.
Um, but so yes, I mean the mental tools, everything that we're talking about, yes, has, it did keep me uh as grounded as I could be. Um, but I did know that I was having some type of symptoms, and that wasn't totally me. But again, I wanted to bring it up because, um, things that you might be feeling, it really could be a lot of it is just up here, and you can make those things happen. You can make your hands tingly. You can make, you feeling like you have like a weird headache, or, your chest is tight, or, all those things. You can do that to yourself. I mean, it, because I did it to myself. And you can create those symptoms in your mind, and you can make it happen to yourself, and you're going, oh, uh so real quick, I'm almost done. Um I know back when I had really bad anxiety issues, if I read symptoms of anxiety, like as I'm reading them, I could start to have them. Like that's how bad it was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I could just do it to myself. And when you're in a really bad state, I mean, yeah, you're just prone. You're susceptible to that. Um, but anyways, I mean, uh, through all the visits and stuff, trying to figure out again my this imbalance. I'm getting better, but also with these visits, it's kind of really highlighted that, hey, most of this you brought on uh, by yourself. Like you did this all to yourself. So,
Yeah.
again, I just wanted to. That's what we're here for. If I have anything, I'll let you know. And again, maybe just a little bit of that story, maybe bring some insight to you, or maybe something that you're going through. So, but I just wanted to just let the our subscribers know, uh, you know what I've been kind of going through, and I kind of dealt with it, and how I'm dealing with it now. So
Yeah, and that's great that you point that out actually, because I know we talk about a lot of different things pertaining to, growing spiritually, mental health, any kind of self-help type of thing. And it might seem like we're up here and we're kind of talking to people who are down here, but that's not what it is at all. I think we're just trying to convey some lessons that we've learned that have helped us in life and helped us get beyond a lot of our suffering. But we do still suffer on a daily basis. We do still deal with things that every other human deals with. And we're not always going to be 110% strong and able to conquer everything. You know, there's going to be an ebb and flow. And we're still learning just as much as the next person is. So I think part of our reason for doing these videos is not only to help others, but to help ourselves. You know, we're all growing together, and we want to kind of develop this community of people who are like-minded and who want to grow with us. So I hope that it never comes across as, oh, we've learned so many things and now we're these great teachers who can just speak on everything and help everybody with everything. That's not what it is. We want to help people, but we're also learning and growing every day ourselves. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I do want people to know that we still struggle, and we're okay being vulnerable. And we want to show other people that it's okay to be vulnerable and to, you know, talk about it and not be afraid to talk about these things. Now, what's funny about what you brought up, let me get this over here real quick. Just so happen to have this here.
Okay.
You know what this is?
Oh yeah, the blood pressure thing.
Yeah.
Dude, I got one now.
And
Too.
also, you know, you can check your heart rate, right?
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, it's all of that. So, yeah, man, I have one of those at the house because the same thing. It's funny you bring this up, and we haven't talked about this. This is the first time Josh and I are talking about this. The same thing happened to me about 6 months ago, where I started freaking out and like, you know, I didn't really feel like something was immediately wrong with me, but I just felt unhealthy. I felt like I needed to see a doctor and just like, you know, get some blood work done and just get checked out, especially because it had been a while since I'd been to the doctor. And, you know, we're getting older and all that. We're getting into our later 30s. So, you know, it's time to kind of be a little bit more cognizant of your health and, you know, maybe have at least like an annual checkup, which was unheard of for me before. You know, it's like, I don't go to the doctor unless I like broke my leg or something, you know. Other than that, I'm fine. But you know, now I think it's important to kind of have more regular checkups and things like that. So anyway, I went in and I was like, hey, I just want you to do like all this, everything you can, just from a basic like blood work and lab work perspective, just to make sure, you know, there's nothing wrong or nothing I need to be focusing on, you know, in particular. Or if there is, then, you know, maybe we can catch it early and I can start working on that. Right. So I went to the doctor and, you know, obviously it's kind of like what you said. At first, they're kind of like, well, what are you here for? Like, what's wrong? You know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, nothing's wrong except up here. You know, I know this is wrong.
Yeah.
So I need I need some sort of like validation to kind of like calm me down, you know, like if you can tell me I'm healthy, then, you know, it'll help me out a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it's not like I have anything in particular that's wrong. It's just like a general, and I even told this, I told this to the doctor. I was like, hey, I have anxiety. And I know part of the reason I'm here today is because of that anxiety. I just don't know if there's anything wrong with me and I just want to get cleared. So, you know, they took my blood and all that. And, the lab work came back fine. You know, there were no issues. Or I should say the lab results, right, came back fine. Um, but to your what's interesting about your story is they referred me to a cardiologist because they were like, we did notice one thing, and it could just be again your anxiety, but we noticed that you had like a high heart rate, and you should probably just get it checked out. So
And then
said,
you're like,
okay.
did that do anything to you?
It did actually. It freaked me out. I I was like, well, that's not really what I wanted to hear, but okay.
Mm.
So so interestingly enough, I I go to the cardiologist eventually, and they tell me at the cardiologist that my heart rate is pretty much abnormally low, that it's not fast enough. So
Yeah.
I'm like, and they're like, "Are you an athlete? Because typically we don't see this low of a heart rate unless you're like an Olympic athlete." And I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm not that." So, and they were like, "Okay, so we should do some additional testing." Um, and so they were going to do what's called a nuclear stress test. And it's like you go through these exercises, you run on a treadmill, and they have everything hooked up to you, and they do some tests. But the other thing is they basically they inject a radioactive substance into your veins, right? And they use that to map out some stuff, and they're able to see kind of more what's going on based off of, sticking that into you intravenously. And I haven't researched what it is in like 6 months or so since I went, so I'm probably not conveying it perfectly, but it's something to that effect. Well, then that freaked me out because I'm like, whoa. I was like, that doesn't really sound right. I'm like, I don't necessarily want something like that injected into me unless I'm like really struggling and like it's like a have to type of thing.
Yeah, yeah,
And then of course, a test like that is like through the roof money wise, even if you have good insurance.
yeah.
So I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay. Um, I don't really know if I trust this doctor because I feel like they're trying to get money out of me.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know if it's that far. So I ended up going to another doctor, another cardiologist. And I was like, hey, I have all these problems. Um,
That's how you started it all.
yeah.
Hey, I have all these problems. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
I'm
good.
completely messed up and I just need you to save me.
Need you to say,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right
yeah.
here, right now. Like whatever you can do. So, no, but I tell this other doctor like, hey, I don't know what's going on, but I'm just out of it and I just need to be cleared. But I went to this one cardiologist and they wanted to do this nuclear stress test, and I'm like, hey man, I don't want to be shooting that in my veins. I'm just it didn't sound right. And that freaked me out, so I didn't want to do that. And I was like, so can we just do a stress test, but without that? Like, can I just get on the treadmill and you hook me up with all your stuff and monitor and all that? And he's like, yeah. And he goes, honestly, what they were gonna do is unnecessary. He was like, they pretty much were just trying to like go as far as they could go, and they probably saw that you were going to take the bait, and so they just pushed it as far as they could, and he was like, you don't need to do that. Let's just do a stress test and all that stuff. And he goes, but here's another thing, right?
Oh
He
my
goes,
God.
but
Yeah.
we noticed because they take your blood pressure and all that when you come in. Excuse me. He's like, we noticed that uh your blood pressure is like really high. So we need you to get, that's why I have that thing that I just showed you. He's like, we need you to get this little blood pressure thing. You know, you could go get it at a pharmacy or whatever. And you need to test yourself like at least 3 times a week and write down, you know, where everything's at. And I'm like, okay, great. So here's another thing, right? So I'm just kind of like in this whirlwind, kind of like you know, of like, I don't know what's going on. You know, one minute I feel like I'm fine, then the next minute I feel like I need to call an ambulance, and you know, obviously I didn't, but um, so I went back, everything was fine. I did the stress test, everything was fine. Um, you know, I stayed on the treadmill for a super long time, and of course they like raise the incline and they really try to push it, and everything was great. And he, you know, the doctor, multiple doctors actually at that facility were like, "You're good. There's nothing to worry about." And you know, I told him at that point, I was like, "Look, I think this is probably in my head, um, but I just wanted some peace of mind. Like, I wanted to at least test it out and see, you know, and make sure I'm good." So, y'all telling me that I'm good, I mean, it does make me feel better. Um, so anyway, yeah, after that, it was kind of like what you went through. Maybe not as profound of kind of the way you explained it, but I just kind of let it go after that. And then I started focusing more on what we've been talking about recently. And again, this was only about 6 months ago. And I was like, hey, you know what? It's time for me to really start figuring out what's going on with my mind and trying to get a hold of this thing, because it's been messing with me for a long time. And I haven't really done a good job of fighting back, if you will. So, how do I start taking control? What is it going to take for me to do that? So I've started working on some stuff, and that's what we've been talking about in various videos and things like that, and reading some things and all that stuff. So it it's amazing that you brought that story up, because I feel like we're so similar in some of these things, and it's like, you know, we know the way forward. We just have to get there, you know, and it takes time, and it's a struggle. And I know other people are going through that as well. So, you know, hopefully us bringing light to these types of situations will help people realize that they're not alone, and that, you know, there's other people out there going through the same thing. And um, you know, we're trying to fight it. We're trying to take control of it, and hopefully we can motivate somebody else to do the same.
Yeah. Well, seeing that right there, you know, it takes one, you know, one of us opening up, and then it's easier to share another story. You know what I mean? I mean, I know we talk all the time, but yeah, just to everybody, yeah, me and Matt hadn't talked about this previously, so it just, you know, you talk with somebody, it's just easier to open up. You know, once somebody lowers the walls, you know, and then you feel like you can do the same. Okay, if they're making themselves vulnerable, well, I guess I can do the same, right? Um, but yeah, no, well, I didn't know that about you either, man. You know, it's funny with the cardiologist. So, you know, a couple years ago, so I didn't have insurance for the longest. You know, then I got married, and then you know, I had insurance, and then 20 years I go to the doctor. I don't know if I told you this, but everything came back fine. But my the EKG came back weird. You know, and they were telling me you either have an enlarged heart or you have a blockage somewhere. So like, what am I supposed to do with that, you know?
Yeah.
And so yeah, then I had to do the stress test, and I did the same exact thing where they on the treadmill and all that. And then all that stuff, and then I don't know, a week later go in to see the cardiologist, because they were like, they see everything, and he's like, yeah, no, yeah, man, you're fine. You just have like an abnormal EKG. And I was like, well, what do you mean abnormal? He's like, well, this is out of the majority, this is how your EKG is supposed to look. But, there's people out there that not exactly the same, and you're just one of those. And I was just like, oh, like, man, I don't want to, like, it just sucks sometimes, like, why can't I just have the same? Why'd I have to go through all that? All the money and everything just for you to tell me, like, oh, yeah, you're fine. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad I'm fine. Don't get me wrong, but
Right.
damn, like I went through like a scared spell for like 2 weeks. Like, oh, damn, like, am I gonna have to get like some kind of like pig heart put inside me? I mean, you know what I mean? I'm like flipping
Right.
out, but I mean, I
Dude,
go
it's
up to the
funny you say
farm and
that
say,
though,
yeah, like,
because
I want that pig right there. Yeah, I want his heart.
yeah, he's a good one. No, it's funny you say that though, because they told me the same thing, that my EKG was abnormal. And of course, freaking out about that. And I've always been told that, because the first time that I recall getting one was probably about 8 years ago. And that's when a lot of this stuff was, kind of at its peak for me. So that's why I went in. Um, and yeah, back then they even said it was abnormal. And other times when I've, rushed myself to the ER, they've said it's abnormal. And then this last time, 6 months ago, they said it was abnormal. And then, of course, it ends up being nothing in the end. So I don't even know, man. It's weird because I feel like nowadays they would have something a little bit better than that. I don't
Yeah,
know. Like, it just kind of, because the fact that they're coming back and saying, well, it looks abnormal, but you're fine. It's like, well, do we not have something that's like a better measurement of this? Because you're telling me one thing and then telling me another thing. And I don't know. It
yeah,
feels old school to me. Like, it feels like something from the 60s that they're still using or whatever. Like, you would think they would have, I don't know, something better. I feel like I don't know what that would be, right?
yeah,
Maybe I'm sure a cardiologist is watching this and being like, "Oh, we'll come up with something better then, man." But I
yeah,
don't.
yeah,
Why
yeah,
don't you invent it then? If
yeah.
you're,
Come on. Yeah, if you know it all, man. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Well, yeah, I no, I'm glad we're talking about it. Yeah, because it's just, man, the yeah, yeah, your mind can just, even when you're strong and everything. I mean, I'm telling you, like, um, yeah, it's just that the mind can just come in there and just really, take things to the extreme. And I don't know if everybody does this, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people do it. It's just where when something happens and you get some kind of news from the doctor, and they say, "Hey, don't worry, we just got to check it out." Yeah, I mean, oh, dog, like I'm already going to like morbid things. Like,
oh
you
yeah,
say something's wrong with my kidney, like, oh God, here we go. Like, what? I mean, how long you telling me? I got 3 years. You know, I mean, I mean, that's where it goes. So, um, but but I'm just gonna start tallying all this. Everything happens for a reason, you know. And there it goes
every
again.
video.
Every video. But and again, that's why I was saying in the last video, it was like this stuff that's happening to me. There's a lesson in it, and and I haven't found exactly out yet. I feel like I'm on the verge of it. Um, But what this has taught me, and what I've begun to do more now, is every week. I don't do it every day, but I try to do now 3 days out of the week when I wake up in the morning to just take 10 to 15 minutes and meditate and just start my day off that way, you know. Um, and it helps. And I'm starting to get back to what made me so strong before, you know, after all that chaos had happened to me earlier in life, you know. And that's what got me to my strongest. And I think, you know, again, I'm on the verge of it, but it's trying to, you know, maybe it's saying, you know, yeah, you took all this for granted and you're fine. And then you just kind of toss it aside and just living your life. And, and, you know, the mind never goes away, you know, it's there and it's sitting and it's just waiting for its time. And you know, give it the right, the right variables and all that stuff, it's going to jump right back in there. So,
Oh yeah.
um, but this time it's totally different. And, you know, because I do have the tools, I know you got the tools, and it's just, I can fight it in a lot more productive way. Um,
Yeah.
so it's, I wouldn't say I'm like excited to go down this journey, but it like I'm kind of revisiting a little bit of the past a little bit, going through this stuff, and it's kind of highlighted some things that I kind of forgot about, you know, how much sometimes this thing sucks, because I was free of it for a long, long time. And I kind of started to forget about some of the details of it, you know, but it's brought it to light. And uh, yeah, so but yeah, I
Yeah,
just wanted to get, yeah.
well, I was just gonna say that practice is really important for sure. I feel because when I start to fall out of that, that's when I get back into everything you're talking about, and I do it every day. I've recently been better at that. It's not like I've been doing that for a super long time, but you know, recently I've at least done 5 to 10 minutes a day, and I do it just like you in the morning. First thing in the morning before I do anything else, I do that to kind of lay the foundation for the day, have that be the kickstart for everything else. And it is difficult because some days it colors the whole day, and I feel like, oh yeah, that really helped me. And then other days I feel like I did that in the morning, and then I just forgot about it, and then I'm somebody different the rest of the day. So it's hard, to maintain that state, I guess, throughout the day, especially as you're going through all your stuff and everything. Um, but I think with enough practice, it's definitely possible. Um, and here's the thing, going back to what we were talking about before in the past couple videos, even if you retreat to the mountains and go to a completely quiet place where you don't have a job, nobody's bothering you, maybe it's just you and a couple other people and you're living a very simple life. If you still can't quiet this thing up here, you're not going to be any better off. You're still going to be just as bad because ultimately it's what's within that is causing all the chaos, right? And we blame it on outside things, and one could argue that maybe it would be a little bit easier if you got rid of all the outside things and you could just sit with yourself. But I mean, how long can any of us really sit without getting distracted by our minds. I mean, not very long. I know I can't. It takes practice. It takes a teacher too. I think, it would be wise of me to find someone who's well versed in this, who can show me the way a little bit more. The only problem I've had with that, is a lot of these teachers are. I don't want this to come across the wrong way, but I feel like a lot of them don't fully understand where I'm coming from. Um, and maybe it's that I just haven't found the right one yet, right? And maybe I'll find the right one that gets me and can kind of relate to me and kind of show me, the way forward on some things. But everyone I've spoken to, kind of different like monks and priests and from various religions, right, all over. Um, it's almost as if they don't really fully understand, I guess, where I'm coming from, if that makes sense. It's almost sometimes like I get a canned response from them, like they've rehearsed what they're gonna say, and it just feels fake in a way. Um, so I'm still trying to find a teacher or a guru who I feel is like truly authentic. Now, I don't want to say that to diss anybody. Um, it's not that haven't found really interesting people in the past. I guess I just haven't really found like the right person for me who I would be willing to call like my teacher or my guru or something like that. But I digress. What I'm trying to get at is I think it's important to have that. Like I think you really can only go so far just doing all this by yourself and reading books and stuff before you kind of really need somebody who's like walked that path to talk with you and show you the way a little bit more. So that's another aspect of it. But back to your point, having some sort of frequent practice and especially doing it like first thing in the morning, I think is important.
Yeah, very much so. I think as the weather's getting better. I know we've been talking about this off video, but Matt and I, we'd like to you know go to a place outside and one video be of us kind of going through the process of how we do our meditations. And it's not difficult at all. And you don't need to, you know, also get frustrated because you're trying to meditate and your mind's going crazy. The first probably a lot of times that you do it, it's going to be that way, but the mind is like a muscle as well. You got to work that thing out, and you, you know, just work with it. But um, you know, before, if somebody was telling me, back then, like, oh yeah, just meditate. Well, back then I wouldn't like, yeah, it'd have been a really common response from somebody where we come from, and like, okay, what? So you want me to just like sit on the floor cross-legged and put my hands like this? Like what? You know what I mean? I wouldn't have known
Yeah.
really what
Like,
to
what does
do.
that even mean?
Yeah, 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 like meditate. So I know a lot of people watching probably know how, but maybe there's some, that don't really know, and you can read it, but it's always good to maybe like just view somebody doing it, and it would help. Uh, and so yeah, it's just a thought that we had, and in the near future, that'll be one of our videos is just you know showing up, just showing y'all how we go through the process, and then actually it'll probably just maybe even just be a full meditation video, of us maybe doing a 10-15 minute and then coming out of it and, maybe having a short discussion afterwards on how we feel and stuff like that. So just for people out there that might not know exactly how to do that and where to start. So
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely need to do that because I know we've been talking about it a lot and we haven't really shown how we do it. So that would be a good thing to bring up. Um, another interesting thing that I thought about as you were talking about the struggles you were going through with the health stuff and all that. And me, same thing. I wonder if, well, I don't wonder. I really actually think I know that um, the reason we feel this way is because we still believe that we are the body and we're still clinging on to this body as our sense of self. And we still see ourself as a separate entity from other beings, other objects, and all that in the world around us. And that's why we get anxious because we have this primal instinct to self-preserve, right? Just like you were talking about the mind and any other living organism, it has this desire to survive, and it always wants to survive, and it's not going to go down without a fight. And I think that's how we feel as humans. At that very instinctual level, we feel that we have to keep surviving, we have to keep going on. There's this desire to preserve the self, and even with things like having children, right? It's so ingrained in us. When I think about, and this is kind of a tangent, but even when I think about men being attracted to women, really at the primal level, it's a form of self-preservation, right? Because it's like you come together with a woman, a man comes together with a woman and has offspring, and that's kind of a way of you continuing to live, right? By having children, and that's a part of you that will remain on the earth even when you pass away, hopefully. If you pass before your kids, we would all hope that. But so it's always about self-preservation, even if you don't think it is, even if you think, oh, that's an attractive woman over there, really that is just you kind of thinking along those survival, primal instinct lines, because it's really like you, and you may not be thinking this at the forefront, and obviously you're probably not going to act on it, but it's really you like thinking, oh, well, that would be a good mate for me to have offspring with so that I could continue on my family line, you know? Like you're not going to take it to that level, but that's like the conclusion of that little thought that you're having. And I think with
that's
meditation, or go ahead, sorry, go ahead.
no. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I think with meditation and with all these things that we've been talking about in our videos, it is a complete 180 from that line of thinking. You now are not worried about self-preservation in that way that you were before, because you don't see yourself as a separate entity from the rest of the universe. You don't see this body as the definition of your identity. You begin to see the oneness of everything, and you begin to see the emptiness of the body. And what I mean by emptiness, this is a very subtle topic, and I don't want to get too deep into it right now because I'm even still trying to understand it. But if we play a little game here, what would you call your body? If you were to point to your body, what would it be? Would it be your torso? Would it be your arms? Would it be your eyes? Would it be a combination of all of those things? Like, Well, what about somebody that's missing an arm? Do they still have a body?
Mm.
I mean, yeah. So do we call the body the heart, or the combination of a heart and a stomach and maybe all of the things that you need to survive, on this earth? Is that what we call a body? Really, the term body is empty. It's just a definition that we've come up with to define, some sort of object that we see in this realm that we live in. But on the grand scheme of things, what really is a body, right? It's also, you could use it for anything, right? Like, what is time? Um, is it is time, the earth and the sun rotating and all of that, or is it a number, or is it a time zone? We have all these different concepts and definitions for things that we've come up with, but when you start to meditate and when you start to kind of let go of a bunch of different things, you realize that all these concepts and constructs and definitions that we've come up with are empty. They're essentially empty. They
Mhm.
essentially have no real meaning. And when you begin to see that these things don't actually have meaning, then you actually free yourself from all of this suffering that you're putting yourself through and that your mind is putting you through. Now, I think people, and I've done this too, might fall into the trap of thinking that's nihilism, right? Of, oh, well, then you're just saying nothing exists and that everything's just oblivion in the end. And, it's like annihilationism, right? But that's not actually what it is. It doesn't mean that nothing exists. It doesn't mean that, you know, um, there's nothing at all. It just means that the concepts that we're coming up with in this realm that we live in don't actually have any absolute concrete meaning on a like universal eternal scale. So again, I don't want to get too deep into it because this can get very complex and philosophical. And I've been reading into this as I've been reading into meditative practices and stuff like that. And this is a big concept within Buddhism. Um, the no self, anatta, is a Pali term for that. Anatman or anatma is the Sanskrit term for that. No self, right? And so I bring that up because this whole concept of emptiness and no self, it turned me off in the beginning, but because I thought it was nihilism, right? Of just saying there's nothing. And I thought, well, that's pretty bleak. But that's actually not what it's saying. It's very subtle. But what I'm getting at is that as I've started to embrace this concept a little bit more, I've found myself becoming more free, and
Mm.
I've found myself not being as anxious and afraid when bodily issues arise, because I ultimately know that I am not this body and I have absolutely zero identification with it. Obviously, I use it to maneuver around this world and live my day-to-day life, but I don't I don't make it the source of my identity.
Mhm.
So now again, I'm not saying I'm a master and that I've completely mastered all this and I have zero human instinct, right? Like I've totally gone beyond all that. I'm not saying that.
Yeah, yeah,
But what I am saying is I think there's something here and I think it's worth looking into.
yeah. No, that's all real interesting, man. There's so many branches I would like to go off on. Be here all night long. Um, no, it's very interesting. Yeah, talking about time and oh man, all that stuff. You know, as you become one and you know you're silent, right? Like absolutely nothing going on up here. Um, and you're just in that present moment. You know, I do feel that like somewhere in there, like time just it doesn't exist in that, you know, when you're absolutely in the moment, you know, it just does not exist. Um, again, the the mind has a lot to do with time, I feel, because it again it can only survive in the past and in the present. There's no place for it in in the present moment. Because in the present moment there is, you know, there
Oh,
is
you
no
mean
past and
in the past and the future?
or yeah, sorry, did I say past and present? Uh,
Yeah, I
yeah,
know what you meant though.
yeah, past and the future. You know, that's where that's so its whole concept is time. You know what I mean? Or a lot of it. You know, and you know, I mean, anything. I mean, all worries. It just seems like you're worrying about what's about to come, or you're worried about what happened. Um, you know, it's that's where the mind's at. Now, if the worry is right here, right now, um, I think, you know, in that moment, in that situation, um, I think the mind then stops to. I mean, you then use the mind for its purpose when you have a situation in the present moment and you're figuring it out. You know, here and now. You know, and that's what it was designed for. You know, but I don't know. I've been on this of trying to think of like, man, where did the mind come into play, you know, thousands of years ago? When did it flip? You know what I mean? And and just kind of throw everything on its head. Um,
Yeah,
but but yeah, no, it's all that stuff's just very interesting. And I you know, us talking today about, you know, us well, you know, what we continue to go through, but we are getting stronger, you know, and it's because, you know, of what we know, and we continue to talk to each other, and it's very important, the communication and confine in one another uh to help just, you know, it might just help you just get you past a little bump in that road, you know, and and so these types of conversations are good. If anybody, you know, again, people out there listening, if you're not talking to somebody and you're going through something, it doesn't even have to be anxiety. It could be depression or anything like that, or you got something on your chest. And I know it's hard, you know. I haven't, you know, I might not have had it as bad as you on anxiety or depression, but I will say if you can get out there and talk to somebody, you know, find that person and, you know, it, 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 it will do quite a bit of help for you. It will help. So at least do that. And maybe that could be some type of coping mechanism as you're trying to work on things up here, you know, as we talked in the past of, you know, medication, but if you're doing that, you need to be working up here, you know. Um, so that's the reason for the video today. Just, you know, Matt and I just wanted to kind of uh let y'all know what we're going through, you know, at times. You know, again, we've been through some things and have really worked on ourselves over the years. Um, but just like Matt said, um, if if we're not practicing, if not working, it'll come back, and you got to continue to practice and continue to keep that mind in check. And but once you do, uh, you will start to get on the other side of anxiety, on the other side of depression, and start to eliminate it to where it's not even a factor in your life. But again, the reason why I bring it up is maybe there is somebody out there that, has been past it and is living careless, carefree, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. That's a really good thing. That's a really good thing. But just, don't forget to every once in a while, you know, maybe go meditate, maybe, work on a little bit of this, a little bit of that, just to make sure, you know, the mind don't creep, find its way back into your life running wild again. Um, so that would be my message uh, for today.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one, man. I think that's perfect. Got to remain vigilant for sure. It will definitely come back on you. And I think we've experienced that in our own ways. So it's taught us to, stay with it. And that's what we're going to do. That's why we're here. But yeah, just like Josh said, if anybody wants to reach out, we'll have the email on our channel, our YouTube channel, and feel free to email us with anything. We're here for anybody, even if you just need someone to talk to. Like Josh was saying, I know a lot of people out there feel like they don't have anyone to talk to, and maybe you see this video and it is exactly what you needed to see, and you feel like maybe you have somebody to reach out to now when before you had nobody. So if that's the case, feel free to email us. And again, if anyone wants to leave any comments, we're here for it. But we appreciate the subscriptions, and again, we're gonna make this fun. We're gonna change up the scenery a bit and get out there, and we're gonna bring other people on too. We're gonna have other people that share their insights, because it's not just us. As much as we would love to think that we have all the knowledge in the world. No, I'm just kidding. we there's other people we would love to talk to, maybe even interview. We're gonna show how we meditate, all sorts of stuff. So stay tuned in, stay plugged in. These first several videos, we're just kind of getting that foundation laid, but it's gonna get fun. We're gonna change it up a bit, and it's gonna be a good time. So hopefully you'll come along for the ride. But I think that's about it for this video, unless there's anything else you wanted to say.
No, sir. We'll be back at it again next week. And till then, again, everybody, find some peace, find some silence, and we'll be back again.
Awesome. All right. Well, you take care, and everyone take care. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.